Hi everyone, welcome back to Average Fitness, and for today's video I thought I'd put together a small workout for beginners using only household items. A lot of people who are looking to get into fitness for the first time, or maybe for the first time in a long time, don't have gym equipment lying around their house. So I thought, like I say, I would put together a few exercises to make up a full body workout using only items you can find around the house. So for example, got myself a little footstool. Again, most of these items doesn't need to be specifically what I'm using, but I'll give you a general idea of the exercises we're going to be doing, and you can maybe adapt as you go. So I'm going to be using a footstool for something to step up onto. I've got a couple of small weights to one side here, so whether you want to use a couple of tins, which are obviously very, very light, or I've got two very, very full to the brim bottles of water here, which are obviously a little bit heavier. So either one of those to kind of mimic those dumbbells that you would normally see for traditional exercises. And I've also got a backpack filled with other bottles of water. So again, anything you can find around the house to make the backpack quite heavy. And I've got them inside a bucket. You don't necessarily have to have a bucket or a backpack. You can use either or. And we're going to be doing some of the heavier lifts with this piece of equipment. So get yourself nice and warmed up, do a couple of stretches, and we'll get going. Alright, so like I say, it's going to be a full body workout, so make sure you do have some water to one side to stay nice and hydrated. And we're going to start with our chest. So one of the best home exercises to work on your chest and indeed your triceps, which is the back of your arms, would be press-ups. Now, there are lots of different variations of press-ups. There's hundreds of different ways you can do them to make them more difficult and make them easier. But if we're saying that this video is for beginners, we'll start where I think is the beginning, and that's with the kitchen bench. As I say, there's lots of different variations of press-ups, and if you're comfortable doing regular press-ups or press-ups on your knees, then by all means do so. But if you're not at that stage just yet in your fitness journey, then using the kitchen bench can be a great way to make them a little bit easier, so you can get a few reps under your belt until you progress to doing more difficult press-ups. And all you're going to do is simply place your hands just wider than shoulder width apart, or slightly narrower if you prefer, and then you're going to step your feet back so that your whole body is at a 45-degree angle. From there, you're going to bend at your elbows, making sure your elbows go back, not out to the side. Alright, so bend at the elbows, keep your body rigid, keep your core tight, so that as you come down, your whole body is still in a line. So your shoulders, your hips and your ankles should all be in a line throughout. And you're just going to do a few reps. Basically, as many as you feel comfortable doing. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. And you want to be aiming for about 8 reps up to about 12. So any number within that bracket is absolutely fine. Take a breather, and we're going to do that 3 times in total. So, like I say, a few reps, 8 to 12, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Take a rest, 30 seconds to 60 seconds, and then you're going to do it all over again. Alright, so as we mentioned before, this is going to be a full body workout. So we've started with our chest and our triceps. We're now going to move on to our back and biceps. So the muscles of the upper back particularly, also aided by the muscles in the front of our arm as well. For this exercise, I'm going to be using a backpack that I've filled with a bunch of the heaviest items I could find lying around. I'd encourage you to use something similar, whether it be a backpack or a really sturdy shopping bag, or basically anything that you could hold like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to keep your core nice and tight, you're going to stand up tall, bring your shoulders back, and then you're going to bring the item up as high as you can up towards your chin, and then back down in a nice slow and controlled manner. So you're not leaning forward, and you're not leaning back to gain any momentum. You're simply bending your elbows and lifting the item up towards your chin. And again, we're going to go for about 8 to 12 reps. Obviously, the more you do this exercise, the more you can play around with the actual weight of the item that you're carrying. And then relax. Now, like I say, that works your upper back and your biceps, and I encourage you to do 3 sets of however many reps you'd like to do between 8 and 12. A slight variation on that, that's what we call a standing row, because you're basically rowing, but you're standing up. There's a slight variation on that exercise, which is called the single arm row. And I'm just going to demonstrate it quickly because you might find this exercise preferable. So grab a chair or something similar that you can kind of lean on. I'm going to use a bucket that I've got here because I find it a bit easier. I'm going to put the backpack inside, that will just squash down in. Because this has got quite a good handle, and I'm going to use this. Now, what you want to do is set up your bench or your seat or whatever. Bring your knee and your hand onto it, so that you're kind of bent over with your back absolutely straight, so your shoulders and your hips in a line without your back arching. And then you're going to grab the item, in my case the bucket, and you basically want to stay completely still except for the arm that you're working on. So bend at the elbow, bring the item up to about this position, and then back down again. Now obviously, versus the previous exercise we just did, I'm only using one arm for this. And that basically means the weight is twice as heavy because there's only half the amount of muscles using it. So don't forget to do both arms. So you simply switch positions and then make sure you do the exact same amount of reps on your other arm. Whenever you're doing single arm exercises, I always encourage people to start with your weaker arm, because it's no good doing 12 reps on your right, if you're right-handed for example, and then only manage to be able to do 9 or 10 on your weaker arm. Alright, so start with whichever arm you feel is your weakest and go from there. Both of those exercises work exactly the same muscles, the upper back and the front of the arms, but like I say, two different options depending on which you find most practical. Alright, so we've worked out our upper body to a small extent, and now we're going to focus on our legs for a moment. And we're going to start with the greatest exercise ever created, the squat. Now, if you are at a stage where you can do, squats either with weights or without weights or whatever, without using any apparatus, that's absolutely fine. What you want to do is keep your feet slightly wider than hip width apart, your toes pointing directly forward or slightly out to the side, whichever you prefer. Keep your chest nice and high, keep your core nice and tight, and drop down so that your knees and your hips are in a line, and then drive back up through your heels. And again, do 8 to 12 reps. Now, if you're particularly heavy and you're looking to lose some weight, squats can be very difficult because you're carrying excess body weight. So you've got to make them a little bit easier to start off with. And there's a couple of ways you can do this, and the easiest way is simply to sit down in a chair in a squat form and then drive back up from there. And that cushion that you're sitting down on will obviously aid you in getting back up to the starting position. So same exact form, keeping your core tight, trying to keep your shoulders up, and just nice and slow, nice and steady, until you feel like you could do a few reps without using a chair. And by all means, if we're going to do 3 sets, which again I would encourage you to do, maybe do your first set of regular squats, say you can do 6 or 7, and then do 2 sets of using a chair so that you can do more like 10 or 12. And then as the weeks go by, you'll find that you're able to do more sort of free squats, we'll call them, without using any chair or any support. And that's how you get to that stage, by doing a couple of, a set or 2 of free squats, and then, regressing back to the chair when you need to, and then push yourself every week to try and do more and more. Okay, so now we've worked out each major muscle group in our body, our upper body, both front and back, and also our legs. So we're going to start again, and we're going back to our kind of chest, triceps, etc. with this next exercise. And this is what's called a fly, or flies as they're more commonly known. You're going to need 2 weights of equal weight, so whether you're using 2 bottles, 2 tins, or 2 anything. If you've got some small dumbbells lying around, great. What you're going to do is you're either going to do these standing up or seated. Obviously seated is a little bit easier. Keep your core nice and tight, and then you're going to start with the weights in this position, and you're going to bring them up so that your arms are at a right angle to your shoulders, and then back down. Nice and easy. Again, going for about 8 to 12 reps, whatever you prefer. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. If you prefer, instead of going out to the side, you can come up in front just like this, or you can alternate, whichever you prefer. Like I say, you can do these exercises seated, in which case it's exactly the same. It's just a little bit easier to keep your balance, and you don't work your core as much. But either way is absolutely fine. 8 to 12 reps, nice and slow and controlled. Take a breather, don't forget to stay hydrated, and then 3 sets in total if you can. Alright, well done everyone for getting this far. The next exercise we're going to do is good old-fashioned bicep curl. So this is what grows these muscles at the front of your upper arm. Grab your couple of weights. Again, they do need to be the same weight, so whether it be tins, bottles, dumbbells, whatever. And again, you can do them seated or standing, both are absolutely fine. And there's a couple of ways to do these exercises, but I'll just show you some of the really obvious ones. Basically what you're going to do is start with your arms down in this position, and you're going to curl them up in this motion. Nice and easy, nice and controlled. Try and stay as still as you can. You don't want to be rocking back and forward to gain momentum. You're just bending at the elbow. Isolate the muscles and help them grow. As you can see, I'm twisting these tins as we go. You don't have to do that. You can keep them both rigid. That's what's known as a hammer curl. Or you can go a little bit wider if you want, which is a bit of a strange feeling. I don't really like these ones so much, but they do have their value. But either way, nice and slow and controlled. Again, aim for quite a few reps, 10, 12, maybe even more if you like. Take a rest and do 3 sets all together. The good thing about working out with household items is, assuming you can find 2 items that are of equal weight, it's very easy to progress. So for example, a couple of tins, they're easy. Maybe next week you try a couple of bottles of water. You find them too hard, maybe do 1 set of those and then 2 sets of tins. And then you can kind of go from there. If you do have some dumbbells, obviously they're very easy to measure in terms of weight as well. Next exercise we're going to be doing is back to our legs, all right? Now, depending on what you have to work with, in my case a footstool, it's going to depend on how hard this exercise is going to be, and it may not be suitable for ultra beginners. What we're going to do is we're basically going to stand in front of the item and we're going to step up onto it. Just like that. Nice and easy. And then alternate legs as you go. So for instance, on that first rep I went left foot first, second rep the right foot first. Nice and controlled. Do a few reps on each leg, so maybe 6 to 8 reps on each leg. Now, if your item that you're using is quite tall, that's obviously going to make it a little bit more difficult. If you do have something that's a little bit lower to the ground, obviously sturdy enough for you to actually, for it to take your weight, then that will make it a little bit easier. And finding something that can potentially be quite difficult. So another exercise you can do for your legs is either using a chair or a sofa or a footstool or what have you. Sit down, sit up nice and straight. Keep your hands kind of planted to keep yourself steady, and then what you're going to do is bring your feet together off the floor and then straighten your legs out and back in. Nice and slow and controlled. This does work your core as well as your actual legs as well. That's absolutely fine. Or you can even do them single leg if you want, if you struggle to keep your balance with using both legs at a time. So if you want to do single legs, you can. Like I say, it'll depend on what you're going to be using as to what's going to be best for you in that example. And the last, once you've done 3 sets of those, whether it be step-ups or leg extensions as we'll call them, the last exercise we're going to do is going to be a shoulder press. And again, you can do these standing or you can do them seated. I'm going to demonstrate them seated just for now. Once again, grab 2 equal weighted items and you're going to start with them alongside your ears and you're going to drive up towards the ceiling. Back down nice and controlled, drive up towards the ceiling so your arms are straight. Again, not kind of using any momentum to make it easier. Try and slow the exercise right down. 8 to 12 reps and then take a breather. Once again, very easy to progress in this exercise depending on what you're using. Once you've had your 30 seconds to a minute rest, do 3 sets in total if you can, and then we'll call it a day. Alright, well done everyone, hope you found some value in those exercises. If you'd like me to put together an actual workout routine including each 3 sets of the workout so you can work along with me, then let me know in the comments below. But like I say, by all means pause this video every time you want to do a couple extra sets, or watch it through, write the exercises down and then go back and do it again. Whatever's going to be easiest for you. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about me trying to help you on your fitness journey. So hopefully these exercises will come in useful. If you do feel like you're at more of an advanced level, then obviously you can make these exercises more difficult as you go. For example, we mentioned press-ups. Kitchen bench is a great way to start. The next progression from that point will be doing press-ups on your knees, and then regular press-ups, and then go from there. With the curls and the bicep curls and the shoulder press, obviously using heavier weight is going to be an advantage. So whichever way you want to progress is great. By all means reach out if you have specific questions around that. But like I say, hopefully you found some value from this beginner's household items workout. Until next time, take it easy.